Welcome back to our YouTube channel, and today we are still going to discuss about a septic tank as a water retaining structure. So we are going to discuss about a septic tank as a water retaining structure, or as a retaining structure, or rather we can also say that as a part of the septic tank acts as a retaining wall. But basically we are just going to discuss it as a water retaining structure. So what do we mean by a water retaining structure? A water retaining structure is a structure that should be able to retain the water, that is without collapsing, and it should be less permeable. It should be less permeable. It should not develop cracks. It should be strong enough to withstand that lateral pressure that comes from the water. So that is what we mean by a water retaining structure. So these are some of the characteristics that should govern you in determining a water retaining structure. So I have said that it should be a structure that can withstand the lateral pressure that comes from the water. It should be less permeable. Less permeable, I mean that it shouldn't allow water to penetrate through its walls. That is what I mean, that it should be less permeable. It should be watertight. That is the same thing as being permeable, less permeable. It should be watertight. So as you can see, our septic tank, we are now doing our reinforcement bars, and the reinforcement bars are for the walls. So these are the lateral walls that will help withstand that lateral pressure from the soil after the backfill. So the reinforcement bars is being provided. That is because the wall will be a structural wall. So this is a structural wall of the septic tank. So it being a structural wall, that is why we are providing the reinforcement bars. And the reinforcement bars, as you can see, it is provided so that to make the concrete wall stronger. So again, let us come back to the permeability issue, or watertight issue. So the septic tank should be watertight, or it should be less permeable. So when we mean less permeable, it means that when we will be casting the concrete, these joints, you see we have the slab joint, whereby the wall and the slab will be joining, because you see we first casted the slab before we casted the walls, because it is impossible to cast both monolithically. So we first cast the slab, and then later we cast the walls after placing the reinforcement. So which means there will be a joint that is between the wall and the slab. So for us to make sure that that joint is less permeable, or it is watertight, then we will provide a watertight material. So, and I will also show you types of watertight material that we can use, that is on the joints of a water retaining structure. So that is one of the joints that we can mention, that is between the walling and the bottom slab. That is a joint whereby it is supposed to be watertight, such that when we have already casted, no water can find its way through that joint. And then when it comes to the walls, we have now, like for example, when we have a dividing wall, that is a dividing wall is you can remember from our last video about the septic tank, we said that the dividing wall is just a wall that is used to divide the chambers of the septic tank. That is dividing it into a primary chamber and into a secondary chamber. So that wall also has a joint, because it is joining the side walls of the septic tank. So that joint also, as you can see, this will be the joint. So this joint we will have to also do watertight. We will have to insert watertight material, so that when we cast it, the joint will be watertight. It won't allow penetration of the fluid that is outside. So that is what we mean by less permeable, or that is what we mean by the septic tank being watertight. So in all the corners as well, you can see, so this will be one of our corners of the septic tank. So all the corners we will have to introduce the watertight material such that water cannot find itself outside the walls, because you see at the corners also, that is where we can have cracks, and that is also where the fluid from the septic tank can find its way out, that is into the soil. So that is what we mean by the structure being watertight. So a septic tank as well also acting as a retaining wall, because you see the septic tank, it is retaining water inside. So it is retaining water inside, and as well as it will be retaining soil that is from the external side or from the external face. So you see, after concreting the structure, we'll have to do a backfill. So this backfill, that soil will be acting, will be making pressure that is on this lateral wall. So that will be the wall being retained from the soil. And then again, you see, when we have the liquid inside the septic tank, or the fluid inside the septic tank, so this septic tank as well, it will be retaining that fluid. So it is a retaining wall that it is retaining from both sides, that is internally and externally. So internally it is retaining the fluid from coming out, and externally it is retaining the soil that is from making the septic tank collapse. So that is why we are doing a reinforced concrete retaining wall. So it is a water structure, and the thickness of our wall shall be 200 millimeter thick, and it is an RC wall, it is a reinforced concrete wall. So that is it, and we will be discussing more about the septic tanks. Thank you, and please continue subscribing for more construction basic knowledge.